Yes, good evening, good evening, good evening. Appreciate everyone who's joining us, who's watching this either recorded or afterwards or live. This is Patrick Danko from the Human Design Perspective, where we have guests come on, entrepreneurs come on and share their journey. We believe that there's so much power in unpacking your journey. We want people to feel empowered by sharing their journey because if you hide a part of you, you hide all of you. So we have guests come on, share their journey, share their story, how they found purpose, and how they're using that and their platform to share that knowledge with the world, with the people they serve. And today we have Aisha Saintiche.
That's right. That's right. You got it.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I was worried all day practicing that. And we have Aisha and Aisha. I'll pass it on to you. But Aisha's objective really is to impact people, from the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual barriers, right? And have them overcome those barriers, right? And she's going to talk about her methodology. She's going to share a bit of her story. And we're also going to get into human design as well and how she's navigating her human design and implementing it in her day-to-day life. So Aisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be here this evening with you, Patrick.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is. It is. And we met briefly, but I'm glad that you're here and thank you for sharing your energy with us today. There's so much to get into,
Mhm.
which I'm excited about. I'm trying to figure out where do we start, But first, I apologize for not getting the name exactly right. I'm like, you know what? I was practicing all day. I'm like, does it have a little bit of a
Un peu
French
de
in there?
français, ben oui, absolument. Il y a un peu de français. And that's the thing, right? You practice all day, you're ready. And then the moment you have to say it, you're like,
Right? I'm like,
happens to me all the time. Do not worry, you said it correctly.
but yes, and today we're gonna get into, like I said, your human design,
Mhm.
um, your experience with it. I think that's beautiful. Where I really wanted to start is maybe even have you introduce yourself because I really want to talk about, you know, um, showing up authentically as
Mhm.
you and how important that is to aligning with your passion and purpose. But before we get into the gritty stuff, I wanted you to maybe introduce yourself to those that don't know you.
Sure. So my name is Aisha Saintiche. Again, quick background. I'm actually a born and raised Quebecer. So I love to say that because even though I'm in Ontario, I am clinging onto my Quebec roots for life
Okay.
in Montreal. I'm a mom of three. By day, I'm a strategic advisor for one of our local municipalities, but my passion and purpose work is that of a health coach, certified
Yes.
health coach. And so when people hear health coach, right, they kind of think like, oh, personal trainer. And even
Right.
though training is something I love to do, my focus is really on the self care piece, right? So how do we create self care as our conduit, right, to self
Mm,
actualization, to self,
yes.
demonstration, to self awareness, and self love. Right.
Yes.
So being able to put ourselves ahead of everyone, which I know is not comfortable always, but the mantra of, what version of yourself are you giving to those that you love the most by
Right.
ensuring that your cup is filled, right? So when we're taking care of ourselves, we are giving the best version of ourselves to those that we love the most. So
Mhm.
that's really what I focus on, really helping people unpack, the narrative in their minds that tells them like, no, you're supposed to give, you're supposed to be selfless, you're supposed to just, do for others before you do for yourself. Helping people change that narrative guilt free.
Yes. No, I
That's
love
what I
that.
focus
I
on.
love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I want to dive more into that. And
Mhm.
I really want to get into your journey. Like, how did you get here?
Whew.
What brought you here, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna unpack a lot of that because you've heard me say it before, like
Mhm.
I really want people to feel comfortable
Mhm.
sharing their story.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be triggering, but I feel like there's so much power, and that's our ability to empower people. And if we hide a part of us, we hide all of us.
Yep.
And I'll hand it over to you to kind of
Mhm.
share your story. But I read a quote that you wrote. You said, "Until I invested time in myself, my why was not in a position to reveal itself."
That's right.
So I really want to hand it over to you so you can speak to how you got here and then
Mhm.
how you ended up finding that
Yeah.
why.
So, I think like many of us, right? I am of West Indian background. So, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go to school, get a good job, find a house, get married, have kids. So I did that, right? I did what I was supposed to do, got a great education, started working.
Right.
And I felt like so much of what I was doing, in regards to my professional life in particular, was to prove to others that I was worthy of like elevation or growth or promotion, right?
Right.
So you go to school, you get these accolades, and you wait for someone to say, okay, Aisha, now it's time for you to become a manager, for you to move up.
Right.
And nothing happened.
Mm.
Right. I got my master's, I got certifications, I got diplomas. And
Right.
the only thing I kept hearing was, okay, in time, Aisha, in
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I was, didn't get a position that I really thought I was qualified for, did I kind of hit this place where I was like, why am I waiting for other people to tell me that I'm ready? Right. I
Right.
have this quote in a book that I recently wrote that said, no one should cue you into your purpose and your power.
Right.
Right. And that my measuring stick of greatness could be at the end of where someone else's was.
Right.
And so that's what kind of moved me into the space of health coaching. I've
Okay.
always had a passion for health and wellness and self-care. Focusing on the significance of mental health. Both my parents are in the mental health field, so it's definitely something that I'm immersed in.
Okay.
And so as I shifted into that place and really decided to focus on myself, like without focusing on the outcome for my parent, for my kids or for my partner, I started to realize, okay, you know what? Like this energy, like I was stepping into myself. I was doing work that was only for me. And what was pouring out was the version of myself that I knew that always existed. It was the part that I wanted other people to see, but was waiting for others to cue me into that, as opposed to saying, guys, like I'm
ready.
here.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm here. Right. And even if they didn't think I was ready, I was ready. So it was actually through disappointment
Right.
that I kind of had to take a bit of a pivot and really think to myself, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting for somebody else to say, Aisha, you're ready? We know how the workforce works, right? Not everyone, they're not trying to have me climb above them. They will, most times people will keep you in a place that they're comfortable with.
Right.
Where they feel you should be, not where you should be. So it was really through hardship and a bit of disappointment that I had to check my own self.
Right.
And say, get it together, get it together, Aisha, and really focus on yourself. You're smart. You have the skill set. But were you even in a space that, where you wanted to be, right? Because that's the other thing too. Like we believe, you're supposed to climb the ladder, you're supposed to move up, and that's supposed to give you this sense of leadership, this sense of growth, this sense of accomplishment. And that's not even the case, right? Impact happens at any level. And so I had to realize, like, I had the capacity to make the kind of impact that I knew I could make, even without this particular title. So disappointment was hard at the time, but it was honestly, Patrick, the greatest catalyst of life. It was a huge game changer for me. Huge.
Oh, yes. I mean, and it's in the disappointment. And that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, how did you come to this realization that, I don't need to be cued in. I can step into my power, because I feel like, and I've had conversations with a lot of people who've mentioned they didn't even know that they're ready. They're not sure. They second guess themselves. And if the people around you are going to keep you feeling small, very oftentimes they'll stay small, because it's a convenience for whomever is around you to keep you the way you are. Right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
if you're going to show up that way, why should I change things for you? And I wanted to kind of bring it back to you to kind of speak to, like, how can people start to even identify that they're not showing up authentically themselves, like they're shortcutting themselves, shortchanging themselves.
Yeah. And so the human spirit, the body, the mind tells you when you are acting or dishonoring yourself. You can't hide that. So whether it shows up in your gut, whether it shows up in the self-talk, right? So, you go into a room where you are ready to shine, and you tell yourself, okay, no, don't look too confident. Don't look too assertive. You're almost fighting with yourself, right? You're having this whole self-conversation, like, like they're up there talking, you do more than just raise your hand, ask the question, make the point that you need to make. Your body and your mind tells you when you are not optimizing yourself.
Yes, it does.
So I can't even say that there was one thing that really cued me into the fact that I wasn't living or operating in my optimal self. but I can see now when I look back, the things that I did, the things that I didn't say, the times that I didn't put up my hand, or I didn't take initiative because I was fearful that that would be seen as overstepping.
Right.
Right. We're all
Yes.
told, like, know your place, know your tone. And so I very much, I know it's not a word, but I use the word chameleonized, right? So I
Okay.
chameleonized myself so that I was in a place of comfort for other people.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and so what I would say to someone who finds themselves in that space is getting to a place where you realize if you are small, you still might not be accepted. If you are who you are intended to be, you might not be accepted. So
Okay.
you might as well just be who you are authentically.
Mm.
We're not for everyone. Not everyone who we meet is going to vibe with us, is going to like us, is going to want to see us grow, and that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay, right?
Yes.
But we have to get to that place of self-assurance, of confidence, of self-love, to be able to say, like, okay, I can see that, not everyone's jiving with me, but I'm cool with that, because there's that one person in the corner who I know I'm connecting with, or who I'm impacting, and so I'm here speaking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But
Yes.
it doesn't come with this scenario where you're like, you step into a room, you're like, okay, today I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to live my best life, right? Like if that was the case, we'd all find that button and press it. It really, part of this process is unbecoming the things and the narrative and the labels that we believe we need to be, so that we can make space to become who we're intended to be.
Yes.
So the first work is not to pile on the layers of our authentic self. It's actually to emancipate ourselves. I literally just wrote an article about that, right? It's literally to emancipate yourself of every single label, narrative, thought that you have about how you're supposed to show up, how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to speak, so that you can actually leave space for your authentic self to evolve.
Yes.
And show up.
I love that.
Right?
I love how you said that. It's about emancipating yourself.
Yeah.
So then when you hear showing up, being unapologetically you, what comes to mind to you? What do you think?
Whew. So what I think unapologetic, I mean, I'm out here living off, unapologetically. It's hard to describe. And this is a discussion we had, Patrick. Like
Yeah.
there's a point in time where you are your whole self. Right. So I work in an environment where, I'm a Black woman, I've got dreads, I've got tattoos, I've got piercings. I am very aware that there is a narrative or assumptions made about me, right? Which I'm okay with. But what I also know is that when I step into a space unapologetically, that I am unwilling to diminish who I am for other people's comfort.
Right.
And that it's their responsibility to accept who I am, to be okay with who I am. And by the end of it, what they'll realize is that their regard of me doesn't waver my regard for myself.
There we go.
Right? That shows up in how I speak. It shows up in how I step into a room. It shows up into how I dress. That I am affirmed in who I am.
Yes.
And therefore, I'm not going to apologize if I ruffle your feathers.
Right.
Right?
It's
like an essence. Yeah. If you're uncomfortable, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But I'm not sorry.
Sorry, it's so important that I feel like we talk about this for a second before we move, because I think that shows up in so many different places for people. You described yourself, I'm a woman, young Black woman, dreads, tattoos. So in certain environments, people are going to have an opinion, but seeing you embrace that almost takes their power away. Really, what it does, and I talk to a lot of people, even just kind of how they show up on the social platforms, social media platforms, work environments. Like, how many people are comfortable truly owning who they are? And I've spoken to a lot of corporate people on the LinkedIn environment. We use that space, for anyone who's familiar or is using it. There's sides to us as people, but oftentimes people are not comfortable showing their true self. Like, I can only show a portion of me that's acceptable. And I always make them like, let's think about that for a second. What does that mean? I'm only comfortable showing this side and not, all of me, the true me. Like, I just wanted to show what will fit in this box. I don't think anyone takes a second to even digest like what you're saying when
Yeah,
you show up that way.
exactly. Imagine, I mean, I mean, we don't wear half a shoe,
There we
right?
go.
We
Right.
we don't wear half a pant,
Right.
right? You need to wear the whole both shoes and both, right, the clothing in order to, right, to show obviously your clothes, because you can't be
Right.
walking around naked, right? But like you said, I love what you just said. Like, we only show the things that we think are appropriate or good,
Right.
but yet then expect people to see us holistically.
There we go.
Right, we can't celebrate dimensions of diversity and wanting people to see every part of who we are, but we're only giving them the part that we think is received. Imagine all the other groups of people that you're missing by not showing your whole self,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Imagine how many connections you
Could
are
you have?
missing
Right. But then
by
it
not.
goes to show you the power of the social media and the social constraints and institution and the
Mhm,
dominant messaging.
mhm.
It's made everyone like contort themselves and fit
Yeah.
to fit this thing
Yes.
that's not
Yeah.
even comfortable. I put this suit on that doesn't even feel like me, but
Yeah.
I'm doing it to blend in.
Mhm.
But it's like it's defeating the purpose. Like you want to be yourself,
Yeah.
it's just interesting how backwards it is, but we all subscribe to
100, right? Because nobody's out here trying to be the outlier, right? Like, you don't want to be the one to be like, have you seen what Aisha is going, like, what is going on? Like, nobody wants that,
Right.
right? But then we also want to be seen as individuals. So we can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
We can't seek to be recognized as an individual, but then engage in activities that bring us into like this giant melting pot of homogeneity,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So again, it's not this scenario where you pop out and you're like, I'm here, right? I mean, you can do that,
Yes.
um but the ability to slowly
Yes.
unpack and reveal in a way that shows people that you are on this journey of self-actualization and self-awareness. I mean, what a gift. What a
Yes.
gift to yourself
Yeah.
to honestly emancipate. I use that word all the time, to emancipate yourself, because for me, the word emancipate is to truly let go. Like, we say let go, but we kind of let go because it's still here. Emancipating
Yes.
yourself means like, I am
Free.
free of, yeah, right? Literally every restraint that
Yes.
has been tied to me in relation to whatever the topic is or the issue is,
Hmm.
right? So that again, there is space to become who your spirit, your mental, your physical, emotional self is intended to be.
Yes. Power. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna pivot. We're gonna
Yeah,
talk
of
about
course.
human design. We're gonna talk about
Oh,
human design. We're gonna bring it back
yeah.
because we discuss human design here,
Mhm.
and really what I love to do with people is find out how they're experiencing their design when it comes to freeing yourself, emancipating yourself,
Mhm.
getting back to who you authentically are,
Mhm.
right? That raw version.
Yeah.
And I know you're, and I'll give a quick high level because I know you're a manifesting generator. So for
Yes.
those that don't know, they have this open, enveloping aura. Their strategies to wait to respond and then inform when they're going to do things. And they're really here to build and create what they love. They go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Like they move
Sometimes.
quickly, they can skip steps, and their themes when they're not living authentically in their when they're in their not self is kind of frustration and satisfaction when they're doing things according to their design. Right now, they have this sustainable sacral energy so they can move. They when you're doing something that really excites them, they can go and do it and totally fixate on that thing. They're definitely masters of their work because of this, and they have this magnetic and vibrant energy. And if anyone knows you, if
Yeah.
anyone spent 2 minutes with you, they can see that too. Now, here are some of the challenges, and this is where after I explain it,
Mhm.
we'll talk about that and maybe a little bit into your profile. But
Yeah.
they can have the tendency not to get stuck, but maybe be impatient, right? Because their ability to move quickly, usually quicker than other people, and because they can skip, they can recognize which steps don't need to really be done entirely, and they can skip. So there's a tendency to be impatient. You maybe even sometimes busy more focused on busy but unproductive, but doing a lot of busy work because you have this capacity to go,
Mhm.
go, go.
Mhm.
And sometimes they have a challenge of accepting that they need to do a lot of things to figure out what they like. Oftentimes we're told we have to live in this linear path. They try different things, and that's how they find their journey,
Mhm.
right? And if the conditioning, the dominant message is you should stay in one thing and finish that, and that's the way to do things, sometimes they can have a hard time being themselves. And I wanted to understand and see how you've identified with your, just generally speaking. We might touch on the profile, but I
Yeah.
wanted to start there.
So I think one of the funniest parts of, or not even the funniest, the most interesting part of this process for me
Yes.
was around the impatience. And if
Okay.
I think about, like, sometimes when my husband is talking, I'll always say, okay, synopsis. Like, give me the synopsis, right? Because he likes to give me the beginning, the end, and I'm like, give me, just wrap it up. Did this happen? What's the outcome? And he's like, Aisha, let me give. And I'm like, no, 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 no. So when you said it and when I read it, I was like 100%.
Yes. Yes.
This journey of human design felt like an official affirmation of my journey. So
Wow.
before I did the human design, I was like, okay, I know there's something great for me out there. I know I'm not living at my ultimate, potential. But I'll be
Hmm.
honest, I was fearful because here's the thing. When you know, and this is not even just relation to what I do, when you know you're great and you're destined for greatness, the hardest thing to do is to tell people you're great, or
Yes.
to show up in a way where other people really see you are just working at this optimal level. And so that was
Yes.
me. I had my closest friends around me that used to say, Aisha, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
get out there and do what you know you were destined to do. And I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I don't want people to feel like I am out here just
Right.
thinking I'm killing it.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I did that human design that I was like, okay, so basically I'm contradicting what was already predicted for me before I entered this physical state.
Yes.
So I need to just accept that I am great and live as such,
Yes.
and recognize that in this greatness, I am also here to create space, because that's what I do. I'm here to create space to pour energy into those who haven't yet found their greatness.
Absolutely.
And so once that was revealed to me, I was like, okay. And
Game
since
on.
then, Patrick, I mean, if I look at my social media, if I look at how I was operating, it's like night and day. From the
Yes.
moment that I found out that I was a manifesting generator, I was like,
Yes.
hear what, people? Get ready. Get ready for what's about to be unfolded here.
I
Girl, like,
love that.
right? But
I
it,
love
it
that.
was such an affirmation,
Mm.
that I was like, okay, stop resisting what has already been destined for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how have you experienced, because you're also like your profile is a 3-5,
Mhm.
the 3 is the martyr, the 5 is the heretic. So the martyr is you learn through trial and error. So a
Mhm.
lot of the things that you do, like you said, I might try this in my journey of life, I might take on this, I might try something new, I might add more education to, I'm going to try different things, but you learn through experience.
Mhm.
And then the fifth line, the heretic, is really about that hero line,
Mhm.
right? It's almost like you said before, like, this, it's almost this projection line, because people come to you because they feel like you have this solutions, and then you have this magnetic aura. So it's almost like when you put them together, it's through your experiences, through
Yeah.
your journey, through your knowledge, through your beliefs. Now I can provide the solutions.
Yeah.
Now I can articulate it. You're
Mhm.
supposed to be the one that's out there sharing and
Yeah.
magnifying things because you've learned it. And
Mhm.
what I love about that, your profile, and as a manifesting generator, you're supposed to use your experiences to show people, hey, there's a better way.
Yes.
I've done
Yeah.
it. I know, trust me.
Mhm.
And you can speak to it.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to know how you experienced that piece of trial and error, and also trying different things to find your path.
So I think one of the things for me is I'm not scared to fail. And I'm not scared to fail because over the years, I've realized failure is not failure, right?
Yes.
Failure, we believe failure to be like, okay, if you failed, it's done, it's over. That's really how we've been conditioned to believe failure is.
Right.
And for me, it's like another lane to be aware, like maybe it's something I thought I wanted to do and it's not what I wanted to do. It's not where I want to
Yes.
place my energy. What have I learned? Everything
Hmm.
that I've done, whether it has been good or bad, what have I learned out of this scenario? I'm not scared to try and it not work, because I think, why didn't it work? Maybe it wasn't aligned for me. Maybe it isn't something that I don't like. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. Um, and so in that, I think that's where my success as a coach has been, because I'm not here to tell you what to do. Your lived experience is your lived experience. What I'm here to do is to act as your conduit, to give you the things that you've experienced, but give it back to you without the narrative that clouds your judgment, right? So being okay with, if you tried this and it didn't work, what did you learn? What did
Hmm.
you discover about yourself, right? What are you willing to try again or not do? But make it in a way that everything that happens to you is a lesson to be learned to add to your tapestry. So by the end of it, you have this like beautiful quilt of like lived experiences that you could say, if ever I find myself in this predicament again, if I encounter someone like this again, I know what I need to do.
Yes.
Right. So it's been from young, both my parents were like, failure is supposed to teach you something. It's not, you don't have the right to quit. You need to figure out what is it that you've learned from that. So I think that's always been something that I've embraced. And I think that's
Yes.
what's helped me, in that comfort of ebbing and flowing through whatever's going to come.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like how you put that too,
Yeah.
in terms of the tapestry and quilt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna borrow some of these
Go
quotes.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
It's
was like,
recorded.
"Whoa!"
Absolutely.
You said
Yeah. Yeah.
that. I love that.
Absolutely.
But yes, right. It's through that journey, and
Mhm.
again, some people don't feel that, but I feel like when they're working with someone who's had that experience, and you almost giving them that permission, like, hey, it's okay. Yeah, I'm giving you permission.
Yeah.
These things happen, but this is how you learn. Don't look
Mhm.
at failure as failure, right? Look at it
Exactly.
as growth, and there's power in that growth.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask you before we pivot here, because we've
Yeah.
been talking a lot about growth, self-awareness. We've been talking about, empowering yourself,
Mhm.
and sharing your journey, right? Being authentically you. And I wanted to ask you, with our journey, we talk a lot about what does it mean for you to go from raw to real, to go from raw to real in your journey, to go from raw to real in your awakening, to
Mhm.
truly get out and on the other side. And I
Mhm.
wanted to hand it over to you as we wind down today. And I wanted you to give me your thoughts on
Yeah.
what you think it means to go from raw to real.
Whew, listen, first of all, the raw to real, I feel like could be a possible next tattoo, because when you said it, right, it kind of gave me goosebumps, right? We enter into this world open slate, right? And as we get older, we find ways to create this like beautiful little picture, like you said, that we want people to see,
Right.
right? But that's not what's real. The rawness, I think the beauty of the raw to real is like the good, the what we deem to be the shadow or the negative side that
Right.
makes us who we are, like not even seeing that as negative, but it being a part of who we are. I think for me, embracing all of those things of who I am impatient, I am loud, I am assertive, I am confident, I am fun, right? But seeing all of those as part of who Aisha is,
Hmm.
and now living that, and being able to be real,
Yes.
in a way that I am grounded and like
Hmm.
rooted in who I am, is again has been like this kind of life altering. I almost feel like, physically, like my shoulders are down. And people always ask me, like, Aisha, you always seem so relaxed and like so stress free. And it's because I'm being real. If I'm in
Yes.
a good mood, I'm in a good mood. If I'm not good, I will say it, because I'm living in that rawness. I'm okay to not show up in my greatest form, or to express when I'm struggling, or when I'm not feeling great, or when my kids have me fatigued. I'm okay.
Yes.
I'm human, right? And
Yes.
I think again, the raw to real is again taking off that mask and just being who you are, right? We are all human.
Mhm.
And as such, right, we're just this open slate of just emotions that ebb and flow, which then allows us to be our authentic and real selves.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
I love it because it's almost like this freedom. Like the raw to real, when I hear it, is like, I don't want to say permission,
Yes.
but it's just like, just be cool, be you, like just
Yes.
do you,
Yes.
just do you, like just be who you are intended to be. Um, really resonates with me. It's, again, it's hard to explain because for me, it's almost like this essence, like it's something you feel, not
Uh-huh.
necessarily something that you can say, but
Right.
it's something that you see in people's presence. You
Yes.
see someone's calmness when they're just affirmed in who they are,
Mhm.
regardless if they're showing up, in what we deem to be a negative way or in a positive way. Because at that
Yes.
moment, they're being real,
Ooh,
right?
there we go.
Yeah.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a night. Aisha, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. We
You.
appreciate you. For anyone who's joined in or tuned in and listening, thank you for it as well.
Yes.
We appreciate you. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you.